The future of the future, when gifted kids fail. So, I once took a class called Futuring in elementary school, which required my gifted classmates and I to record our impressions of the coming future world in a small, neat notebook. All required was seeing through the world mess of the late 80s and 30s, with its Gorbachevs and space shuttles and Iran-Contras, and extrapolating from there. Sadly, the only thing we predicted accurately was the fact that our entire class would fail. The late 80s bore as much resemblance to the world we live in today as they did to the late Middle Ages. CDs had barely emerged, jeans were washed with acid, and camcorders had to be held on the shoulder. Video games were considered a miracle as they played more than 3 colors at a time. But the late 80s had something that latter years would not, at least in my school district. Hope. See, we were the best and the brightest, assembled from 4 local schools for weekly meetings in the basement of Craven Crawford Elementary. There, tucked between the boiler room and the gymnasium, we pursued our precocious interests in sign language, ancient civilizations, French, geology, and stock market, all with the curious vigor of primates at the mall. See, this was before the term gifted became synonymous with special ed, when both ends of the bell curve were honored, so that those who excelled could be of service later on to those who fell behind. Our facilitators were a small cadre of passionate ideologues, known only by the first letters of their last names, Mr. C being among my favorites. Now, Mr. C, who's our proctor on the afternoons when kids from just my school gathered for a small session of the gifted. Though Tuesday mornings with everyone on board were the most exciting time of the week, these Thursdays were the real magic of the whole program, but that's when we focused on creative visualization. Close your eyes and take a few breaths, said Mr. C. Inhale, exhale. Now picture 2 white dots, a half-inch diameter, floating at eye level on either side of your forehead. We did so. Now imagine those white dots merging slowly together at a point 2 inches in front of your nose, and as you do so, they begin to turn red. Done. Now imagine that single red dot growing in size until it's bigger than your face. Got that? Yes, we replied. Good. Now picture yourself melting into that dot, and let's begin our session. The antipode to Mr. C's neo-mysticism was, of course, Ms. G's class in Futuring. If Mr. C was a 60s radical with high hopes for his bicycle riding charges, Ms. G was a stern disciplinarian with her own thoughts and with the Ayn Rands of the future of look, act, and think like. Well, we signed up for her elective thinking it would be something akin to Star Wars to the mind. Lights and flashes and robots and fun. But then out came the newspapers. The essence of Ms. G's approach to futuring was simple. Predict the future by studying the present. Yet to our minds, the present was one of bike riding and pool parties and rumors about girls. It was crab walks through the woods and army helmets and illustrated books about spidery men and government-issue Joes. It was not about the news. So there were 7 of us in the class, neighborhood kids. Chris, the Italian, he had a brother expelled from college for streaking. Ken, whose dad was a bus driver. Chad, best friend, had laser tag. Joel had a big lip. Suzanne was Jewish. And Jess had parents who had donuts for breakfast every day. Mine, of course, was a special case, in that my father was a dedicated pacifist. And someone prone to picking up newspapers and shouting at them when news from the Gulf came across his eyes. If anyone is at home with newspapers, it was me, and yet I was the first to realize the futility of using the news to predict the news of tomorrow. When Ms. G assigned us our first task, using the science technology section to predict the future of telecommunication, we balked. Cell phones, then, were a non-entity. Car phones but a chimera. Most of us had a single rotary phone hanging on the kitchen wall, with a lucky few with parents who splurged for a touch tone. But these are what we know in our entire lives, and there seemed little chance of things ever changing. See, you remember, elementary school was a slow, timeless, almost feudal world, where the days dragged on, endless and cold, with bullies and rich kids commanding attention and rank, while we peons shivered in our discount sneakers and hoped our parents would buy us lacrosse sticks. When this was our age, there was no escape. The 4th grade was something like an old folks' home for doomed young brats who had no hopes of ever joining the esoteric upper castes of the middle school down the street. Future change? We could not imagine the sorts of incremental transformations we were assigned to predict. Give us robots or give us death. That became our rallying cry. We're not worried about telephones, we're not worried about cars, we didn't care about factories or street lights or home-based cooling system. In lieu of Optimus Prime and Skywalker, we all decided to write Jack Squad. Well, 3 weeks in, the grades came back, read aloud by a 38 plus Miss G. Joel, F. Chris, F. Ken, F. Suzanne, F. Paul, F minus. Chad, F. Jess, F. We were the future and we had failed. So, now, here we are. About 6 years deep into the future we had failed to predict. Adults, each one of us, facing the challenges of teaching the new young to plan for tomorrow. But how? How do we get a group of never-addicted 9/11 babies to think about a world transformed with every passing second of the new Google News cycle? Well, the answer, I think, lies not in more newspapers. The answer lies within. See, change occurs not by disinterested study of a few reflections of the way the present world works, but by careful attention to our own creative potential. For if we are each responsible for creating the future world we all like to see, then the best way to predict what will happen is by assuring that something cool does, like robots.